The story of Noah's Ark is one of the most fascinating and intriguing stories known to mankind. It can be found in virtually 200 different accounts all around the world and on almost every continent. However, many people today believe Noah's Ark and the Great Flood are just myths or some altered version of ancient beliefs. Of all the stories in the Bible and known to mankind, Noah's Ark and the Great Flood is one of the most controversial. Is it all true? Did it really happen? And if so, how did it happen? In this video, we will be answering epic and monumental questions such as: when did the Great Flood begin? Where did all the water come from to flood the whole earth? Did the Great Flood cover the whole earth? How long was there water on the whole earth? So climb aboard and stay tuned as we take a journey through time and witness one of the greatest miracles that ever existed. Now, when did the Great Flood begin? By the best records found in the Bible, the Great Flood took place around 2500 BC. Also, according to a literal interpretation of the Bible, God created the universe in about 4000 BC. This means the Great Flood took place about 1500 years after God created the universe. Now, where did the water come from to flood the whole earth? Genesis 7:11 says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the floodgates of the sky were opened. The rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. This means that the water came from two sources, from the fountains of the deep, and two from the floodgates of the sky. It appears the continental plates were shifted and the continents formed when the fountains of the deep opened and the water gushed out. It's also believed that the water canopy God created at creation came down upon the earth. Now, did the Great Flood cover the whole earth? Genesis 7:17 says, then the Great Flood came upon the earth for 40 days, and the water increased and lifted up the ark, so that it rose above the earth. The water prevailed and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. And the water prevailed more and more upon the earth, so that all the high mountains everywhere under the heavens were covered. The water prevailed 15 cubits, or 26 feet, or 8 meters, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds and cattle and beasts and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life, all that was on the dry land died. So he wiped out every living thing that was upon the face of the land, from mankind to animals to crawling things and to the birds of the sky. And they were all wiped out from the earth, and only Noah was left, together with those that were with him in the ark. So Scripture is very clear that the flood covered the mountains everywhere. It uses references over and over again, under the heavens, all, every. So the flood wasn't just local. It's also clear from the Bible and archaeological evidence that the Great Flood covered all the earth under the heavens. Now, for those who say the flood account was just a local event and not worldwide, which is a popular belief today, some just say it's a local event, they overlook the fact that all people and animals not in the ark could have easily left the area of a local flood and migrated to higher ground. In so doing, they wouldn't have been destroyed, as Scripture says. Also, much more than just a local area of the earth was populated, so the flood had to be global to destroy all the other animals and humans upon the earth. Now, how long was there water upon the earth? And I think you're going to find this very fascinating, how long the water was actually upon the earth. So we'll look at just a timeline, looking at the days of how long the water was upon the earth. Now, it should be noted that Noah entered the ark 7 days before the flood actually started. So that gave them time to get all accustomed to everything, get a system down. So they were there 7 days, and then after that is when the flood began. So day one, the flood begins in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month. The fountains of the great deep broke apart, and the windows of heaven were opened, and it began to rain, as found in Genesis 7:11. So now we come to day 40. The massive deluge of rain ends after 40 days and nights in the third month on the 27th day of the month, as found in Genesis 7:11 and Genesis 7:17. Now we come to day 150. The waters continue to prevail on the whole earth 110 days after the flood stops in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month, as found in Genesis 7:24 and Genesis 8:4. And again on day 150, it says the waters begin to recede and the ark rests on the mountains of Ararat in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month, as found in Genesis 7:24 and Genesis 8:4. Now Scripture says that the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. Ararat was a territory originally called Urartu. Notice that the ark didn't rest upon Mount Ararat, but upon the mountains of Ararat. Now when we look carefully at verses 4 and 5, they seem hard to understand. Genesis 8:4 says, "Then in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat." But then Genesis 8:5 says, "And the water decreased steadily until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains became visible." Now this seems confusing, as the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat 74 days before the mountains were visible. Now how could this be? Well, this becomes very clear when we understand and realize that the ark had drogue stones that were used to stabilize the ark. Now these drogue stones were massive stones that hung down under the ship and were used to stabilize it. They were used in ancient times and acted like sailboat ballast today. They created a drag in turbulent waters to prevent a ship from slipping sideways against the waves. In calmer waters, they were used as sounding mechanisms to find out how deep the water was, how far the land was below the water. Therefore, the drogue stones of the ark caused it to stop and rest on the mountains. Afterward, when the water level dropped, the ark touched down and sat on the land. So this explains why the ark came to rest. The drogue stones touched down and held it somewhat in place. Then as the water continued to recede and the mountains were visible, then the ark actually touched down on the land. Interestingly, these stones have been found in the area where it's believed Noah's ark came to rest. We will be looking at these drogue and anchor stones in more detail when we look at all the evidence for the location of Noah's ark in eastern Turkey in the mountains of Ararat. Then we come to day 224. The tops of the mountains become visible in the 10th month on the first day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:5. Between days 150 and days 224 is when the ark touched down upon dry land. Then on day 264, Noah sent out a raven in the 11th month on the 11th day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:6. On day 271, a dove is sent out and returns to Noah in the 11th month on the 18th day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:6 through 12. On day 278, the dove is sent out again and returns with an olive leaf in the 11th month on the 25th day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:10 through 11. On day 285, the dove is sent out again and does not return. This happens in the 12th month, on the second day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:12. On day 314, the earth's surface is dried up in the 601st year of Noah's life in the first month, on the first day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:13. Then on day 370, Noah, his family, and the animals leave the ark. This happens in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, as found in Genesis 8:14 through 17. So taking all this time into account, the earth wasn't dry until 314 days after the flood. This is equivalent to around 10 months. Altogether, Noah and the animals were in the ark a total of 377 days. This is equivalent to just over a year's time. So we often overlook how much time Noah and the animals spent in the ark. So thank you for watching this video, and may God richly bless you.